Hey everybody, welcome back to Ready Steady Play. We're doing our final thoughts on Mysthea, but Ollie has vanished into the mists.
Like
suits
a pop-up
me
smoke.
great. Yeah, like a shroud in the mist.
Oh, editor Mike, put like a sound.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna put like the whole thing. I'm just gonna go over here like this. Oh,
really?
that's good.
No!
Yeah, that suits me well. It's been a long shoot, Michael. One of us worked really hard, scoring a lot of points. I just need to, relax. I might actually be off camera here.
I think you are a little bit. It's like, no.
So, welcome to the Michael Smith Show.
Always wanted my own show. Get rid of him.
Exactly. You and the people demanded this.
I don't think they did.
So
I love if you were like just off, so there's only like a little bit of head.
Exactly.
Like just nose.
So I don't actually know, so I guess I'll move back over here. Damn it. I really do need a rest though. That was
Oh, well, I feel like I need to lie down. That was epic.
That was epic. So I said, actually, it's funny. I said in my rules and setup for this game, and for those of you that have just found this video because it's the final thoughts, we've just finished a epic long game of Mysthea, and of course we always produce a rules video as well. You can find all that stuff on the channel, Ready Steady Play.
Yep.
And if you subscribe to the channel, you have an even better chance of catching it as it comes out daily. But we've just finished playing. We're now going to sort of do a roundup, talk about our thoughts on the game and what we think of it. Our buddy Ollie has had to leave because that's the way life works. Mm-hmm. And so we're just going to sort of give our final thoughts here. But I just wanted to say that I really do... I did say in my rules and setup video, I think this is about a 2-hour game. I stand by that more or less. I reckon it's probably about an hour basic plus half an hour for every player over 2. An hour to 90 minutes... plus half an hour for every player over 2.
I was going to say about 3 hours, I reckon.
I don't think if it was just you and me, it'd be 3 hours.
No, if it was just the two of us. But I think if you're trying to optimize the moves, you get a little bit of AP.
There's a lot of potential for AP here.
I think you could... Maybe... Let's compromise. Let's say it's between 2 and 3.
Between 2 and 3 hours, yeah. Once you've got this iconography down, it's pretty much pat.
Yeah.
But there is some points I want to mention about the iconography. But before we get into that, what do you think of it?
I actually, as a game, I actually quite like it. I think what is really good about it is that it is relatively complex while being relatively simple, if that makes sense. There is so much to potentially think about, and there's quite a few options for you to do in your turn, but they're actually... You think there's a lot to do, but you're constricted by one of 3 main actions and then a potential additional action, which actually isn't that many. But because of that, it gives this little bit of weight to it. It's like, ooh, what can I do which is the most optimal, which is not just good for me, but that doesn't enhance other players, or what can I do to impede other players as well as benefit me? And I think this is done in quite a simplistic way.
Yeah.
I think there's other games like this, like Lords of Hellas, which I've played with you, that I find much more meatier to try and comprehend. Whereas this, I didn't think was too bad. I found this one relatively easier to play.
So an obvious comparison is Lords of Hellas. We've all played it before, all 3 of us, and we all kind of made that comparison pretty quickly after learning the rules and playing a bit with the game. And I do think that the quick summary on the comparison between this and Lords of Hellas is that actually Lords of Hellas is a lot more of a war game, and that's because there's a fixed map. The map is much larger, the troops move around the map a lot more, and there are a lot more of them. They're easier to get the troops out and position them, so it feels like a lot more of a sort of a territory control war game.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, the troops are a lot more difficult to get on the board, and the points for the areas change a lot more quickly. And that adds other interesting elements, but it does sort of detract from the feeling of a territory control game to an extent. And what I mean by that is this sort of constant sort of balance of power where you can stab anyone in the back in any given moment. With this, it's a lot easier to predict where a surprise attack might come from because the movement's more limited and there are fewer troops.
Yes.
In Lords of Hellas, the game feels a lot more unforgiving. Lords of Hellas can punish you for a mistake, And the game is actually, I think Lords of Hellas actually might work out being a bit shorter than this as well. So on the one hand, you're not living with your mistakes as long, but I feel like it's a lot harder to make a comeback.
Well, that one you've got to meet a certain victory condition, isn't it? And this one you just play out till the end.
Yeah, and what this does that Lords of Hellas doesn't do is the 3 era system, and the way that the way this has the develop action, and I guess the thing that's sort of closest to in Lords of Hellas is the hero questing mechanic, where you level up your heroes in Lords of Hellas, and the heroes become better and their stats go up, which gives you more to do on the board. But the difference with that is it's a positive feedback loop in Lords of Hellas. So the hero becomes exponentially better, which makes everything you do exponentially better. And that's not a bad thing in Lords of Hellas, because it accelerates towards the end of the game, which means that the end of the game will eventually come. It's not going to wind up in this ridiculous stalemate like other territory control games. See Risk.
Yeah, I was just going to say, see Risk.
And whereas in this, because there's no positive feedback loop, instead what it does is it actually kind of resets the cards to an extent at the end of every era by superseding them with a lot more powerful cards. And so if someone takes sort of a moment to just grab a lot more of those cards into their hand, they can actually kind of work to bring them back into the game. While the other players who are in the lead might be playing cards and contesting areas on the board already, a player who's in the back seat might take a moment to grab a bunch of powerful cards and formulate a strategy to come back in. And each time the era resets, which is twice, it gives you another opportunity to do that, which I really like.
Yeah, I think that's a nice, interesting mechanic. Do you know what I like about it? I like how it's a little bit aggressive, but doesn't seem too aggressive.
Says the guy with the war chief that triggered like one battle.
All my troops were being lazy. They were having their dinner.
Well, it feels like so. It's a funny economy, because actually what happened to us is we got into a position towards the end of the game where we all had our troops out on the board. And that actually really limited us, because when they're here, you can deploy them using your champion, who can move around a lot more easily. Everyone else can only travel one space. But what the champion can also do, which you kind of don't really realize the potency of at first, is that they can trigger the attunement, which moves their island to a completely different place, which is a form of movement as well. And only the champion can do that, the hero, the champion, whatever. So if you have if all of your people are on the board, they're kind of like trapped in position, and unless you've taken the upgrades that allow you to travel with them, then you're having a hard time getting them out. So in a way, the battle system actually
hard to move around with them.
Exactly, and so in a way, the battle system allows you to regain that flexibility, provided you're losing troops in battle.
I mean, it gains you glory points for you as an individual, but it's not a bad thing for the loser, because like you say, you get them back, and then you
get them back here and not into the unconstructed supply, which I think is a really important thing, because it might seem counterintuitive that they go back to the place where you can just bring them back, but I think it's a way of softening the blow. And the other thing it does to soften the blow of battles is giving you these 4 options here. So retreat is for when you really don't want to lose the pieces, and that's what we saw a great example of Ollie using retreat here, because if he was knocked off of this island completely, he was going to lose the option of taking part in the boss fights, which was worth a lot of points at the end.
Yeah.
But if you're not too fussed about keeping your troops, you can actually take these other 2 cards and gain points and resources for it, which is really, really nice. And then you regain your troops back here. That gives you more flexibility. Of course, you always have to weigh that up with the offset that for every troop you lose, your opponent will get glory points. Yeah. So it depends on how many you stand to lose and how many points you're willing to give away, and the benefit you'll get from playing these cards, which is all interesting considerations that I really like.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
But it doesn't make the battle feel like, it doesn't even make losing the battle feel necessarily really
a bad thing. No, it's like there's gains to be made out of everything, every decision and every consequence that happens. It enables you to rethink your strategy.
One thing I wasn't super keen on was the potency of the hero powers, because I like Ollie's, which is a nice bonus at the beginning of every round if his hero survives the era. Yours is also pretty cool, which gives you a nice bonus. Yeah. The thing is, my power doesn't affect you guys, right? So like Ollie's power doesn't affect us either. He just gets extra resources to spend, that's cool. Yeah. Your power kind of works like a massive deterrent. Your hero becomes this big, scary figure.
Yeah, particularly then if you get it.
Yeah, particularly if you have that champion upgrade as well. In fact, it was really the combo of those 2 cards that really helped you to create this scary war piece.
Yeah.
This gives the champion +2 strength. And there's sort of one like the sort of champion upgrades in each of the eras as well. So there's potential to get those later at a later date. But where I was going with this was that if Ollie loses those 4 energy points, it's annoying. It doesn't feel like that big a deal. Similarly with your hero, but it's hard to measure the potency of these things. Mm-hmm. Like those 4 points that Ollie had. How advantageous were they? I feel like they were a big advantage.
I think they were a big advantage because you could use those energy points for anything.
And they give you a lot of flexibility.
Exactly. I feel like energy is used for a lot of things. And where I struggled a lot in our playthrough was having the lack of energy. Mm-hmm. Because I was
Absolutely.
giving with one hand and taking away with the other. And I just feel like I couldn't... what I lacked was this sort of like... combination or machine that enabled me to use them but still gain them.
And these 2 cards were absolutely crucial to keeping my energy economy going. This one especially was extremely good, allowing me to take a meditation action as my special action. And this one, even when I couldn't meditate, because I didn't have a green card in hand, I could get an energy point for that as well.
And I think that is really good because what it does is it doesn't allow you to waste a turn by meditating.
Yeah, exactly. So then I can keep my force standard action to do something more potent.
Yeah.
Which might be, playing a card to position troops to get more out of my meditate action. Yes. But you do have to get the green cards in your deck to make good on it.
Yes, of course.
So you kind of have to build around that.
There's a bit of a strategy to using it.
Exactly. But what I thought about Celeth was that it's sort of her ability is very strong. But it telegraphs to the extreme what I'm going to do. But I was paranoid the whole game that you guys would just wound her. I would lose it immediately. Right. And I feel like her ability is super vulnerable. Whereas yours and Ollie is... Your ability, especially comboed with that card, is basically doesn't matter if you lose it.
Yeah.
And Ollie's ability, although he will lose it... it's hard to gauge the impact of that as much. Mm-hmm. But I feel like what's really dangerous about this is it telegraphs that ability. It's like, I'm going to get so many points if I achieve this thing. Correct. It kind of paints a target on you, which I don't think I particularly like. So I don't know. I think if I were to play again, what I'd do, I think, is during the draft step, I'd put out 2 heroes. Because I feel like the heroes are super important. And they don't... So if you guys didn't know, you start with 4 command cards, which are super important, and 1 hero, also very important. And you do a little draft step of the 5 cards.
That's if you're experts, isn't it?
Everyone... Yeah, but I mean... Yeah, otherwise it would be random. But I don't think I'd want to play like that.
No?
No, because you could just wind up with some hero that you really won't enjoy. And then it's quite a long game to play.
Isn't that part of the skill, trying to use that hero's ability to your advantage?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends a lot on your group. If you want... to force people to strategize around the random deal they've been given, then, you can just deal everything out randomly. Mm. But I feel like if you're doing the draft, you can sort of start to sort of observe a strategy in the cards available and try and grab stuff. Like you took that because of this guy.
Yeah.
And that gave you a cool combo to start with. And so I think that whereas, like, she's very hard to combo off of, but also when she came out, I didn't have a choice. That was the only hero I could have.
Yes, because of the draft.
Because I was the last one to draft a hero. Yeah. And that's because I didn't really want... No, you took that one, Ollie took that one, and I was just left with this one. I literally had, like, no choices at all. Mm. And that was the very first round of the draft. So I just didn't pick her up immediately because once she was there, I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Whereas, so I think if you put out 2, then everybody has a choice about hero all the time. And that makes it a bit more interesting. But she's such a big deal, and she really paints a target on her head. And then also her ability so reliant on the monsters that come out. I
agree. I mean, but you were able to take advantage of these a lot more. I'm actually surprised. And this, which was big game, particularly when it comes to
Bullrun was a big deal. I actually thought in the end, Onigaros, my capitalizing on Onigaros was basically sort of negligible because we all wound up with almost all the encounter cards and sort of got equal points out of that. And he's only worth... not Onigaros, sorry. Otkoro. It's only 6 points, which by the end of the game is nothing.
Which is nothing, and if you've already reached the maximum of your
encounter cards, exactly.
Cards.
Well, that's what I mean. Like I maxed out super quickly because of my ability, but then Ollie maxed out, and then you almost maxed out too.
Yeah.
So I don't think that. I actually think I would have been better off if there'd been a different monster in place of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something a bit more chunkier, like Bullrun.
Mm.
And as you said as well, I don't think it's only 20 points. You could, there's nothing.
Yeah, it's not a huge. When you look at the end scores, like
20 points. It's if you've taken a missed off Ollie, then that's a 16-point different gap, and you're nearly there.
And I really like how the game offers you all these different ways to score points. You know, I mean, we just had points coming in constantly, so it's sort of it's sort of like this relentless sort of stream of points, and
it's so easy to get points.
You've got so many things to keep your eyes on. You know, but it also, what it does is actually that I think really benefits the game is that it makes it so difficult to track all of the avenues that it's very hard to become demoralized, you know? Whereas it's in some other games, like particularly Lords of Hellas, which doesn't actually use points at all. It has set victory conditions.
Yes.
That makes it very binary. It's very easy to see how close people are to winning or how far you are from losing, which makes it quite easy to become demoralized if you're off to a bad start and there's not a good catch-up mechanic, which there's not. But in this, there is this constant stream of points, and it's so difficult to tell, and the swings can happen.
Swings are massive.
You know, if you sort of drop the ball or you don't see something coming, you know, and it is difficult to track every possible option, you know, like when I was like, this guy's going to let us move all our shit. Yeah. But actually, I hadn't really positioned my people enough to capitalize on that as well as I might have done.
And I halfway through the game, you were like, oh, I'm really worried how Ollie's running away with this. And he didn't really run away with it at all.
To be fair, if we hadn't sort of smashed him on this island, I feel like he might have done a lot better. But I don't really know why that would have been the case, to be fair.
This whole theme, I don't know if it adds anything new. I feel like I've played this game before with this land and this lore and this like. I don't know.
What Tabula Games, who make this game, are doing is they're working really, really hard on their Mysthea IP, their intellectual property. So they've come out with this. They already have a game, I don't know if it's been delivered to backers yet, called Volfurion, which we played the prototype on the channel, so if you want to check that out, that's me and Barry doing that.
Oh, that's the card one.
That's the card one that takes place in the kingdom where the guilds come from.
Right.
The guilds who are now fighting over the islands. Although, to be fair, in this, like we discussed, I don't think these soldiers are actually really... They're just sort of manifestations of the telepathic abilities of the champions, I believe.
Right.
And they're just now, active right now. Maybe, it depends when this airs. Actually, probably just finished, unfortunately, but might still be open, is the campaign for their Mysthea Adventures on the Borderlands tabletop role-playing game. Right. Similar to sort of Dungeons and Dragons in this world.
Quite a
so they're really working to flesh out this world.
I see.
Having said that,
knowing that makes a bit more sense.
With Mysthea in isolation, I agree. I don't feel particularly attached to this theme. I suppose the shifting of the islands is very hard to fit into something thematically. Some kind of boat war game.
Yeah.
Maybe we're all 5 boats moving around.
Yeah.
I don't know, but. I do like the minis. I do like the rock people. I like the
these are little cool.
These guys.
I like this dude. Oh yeah, you got it.
I got it. Yeah, but they're great. They're really cute, and I really like those. There's 5 different
I'm trying to think what they look like. I'm sure I've seen that like image or that face on something before, and it's going to come to me later, and I'll be like, oh, that's kind of cute. I don't think that's what they were going for, but the little rock people, they're not really like, oh, this little card. The battle!
The battle! When you see them like this, it's very cute. Golems are less cute.
Yeah. But But yeah, and the other thing as well that I found very confusing, there's so much iconography to try and decipher.
Yeah.
And the same, like, did we have a card that was the same but meant different things depending if it was on an encounter card and whether it was on an event card?
There is a lot of iconography to learn. And so you've got these two cards here. And if you look it up in the rulebook, it says this one, you remove a troop belonging to each player from the board. And this one is you pick a region on the board and each player removes a troop from that region. But iconography, they look the exact same. So you would only know that if you looked it up on the reference. And to the credit of Tabula Games, what they did was they created 2 card menus in addition to the one in the rulebook. And they created an app which has all of the cards referenced in it and all of this stuff explained.
But like you say, once you've done it a few times and remembered it, it's not difficult to pick up. What is good, and what they have provided that you were saying, is that with the app and with the rule books, it's not difficult to find and it's not difficult to clarify. It's like literally seconds.
There's an element of randomness to this game that will probably put you off.
Yeah.
They do say in the rules that you can, the way the encounter cards work with randomized rewards, you can mitigate that so you can make a more tactical decision. We didn't do that in this series because we thought that it would be more fun in the video series to have.
Hey, if you're frustrated about the randomness, you could pick which one you want. No.
No. Anyway, I think so. I think the game retails at about £70.
Wow.
Well,
is that because of the minis?
Yeah, it's got a lot of minis. I mean, there's. I
still get amazed by how much board games are.
A lot. There's a lot of these little guys here. There's 40 of them. Yeah. There's like 40 of these guys.
And this is a Kickstarter.
Yeah, this is the Kickstarter edition, but it's pretty much the exact same as the retail edition. They didn't really have any Kickstarter exclusives on this, so if you pick it up at retail, you'll pretty much get
pretty much the same.
I think there's like a tiny canvas bag that Kickstarter backers got. I think.
I mean, you don't even use it in the game.
Yeah, it's just for holding stuff in the box.
Yeah,
which is cool. I like that. I'm okay with that. There's 7 monsters in the box. There's 7 heroes. You'll only ever use 3 monsters and 5 heroes if you're playing with 5 people. So there's enough going on there. The islands are sort of they're laid out differently, but they move around so much, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think the replayability sort of comes from the combo of the monsters and the heroes and the cards you're buying as you go up throughout the game.
And how these come out differently every time. And
I think there's enough replayability to
the one thing that puts me off the replayability is how long it takes.
Well, I was about to say, because it's so long, actually, it probably gets away with having sort of slightly less options. I mean, the thing that would increase the replayability the most is more heroes and more monsters, I think.
Yeah.
But and then again, these are also there's 10 cards here. Well, there's 5, but they're all double-sided, so there's 10 options here. Yeah. So that's got to be a lot of different configurations. But then again, I don't know how much these are going to influence your tactical decisions in the game. But the art is pretty good. I'm not.
Yeah,
some of it is really nice. Some of it's a bit like, okay.
I really like the mist.
Yeah, the concept of the mist, that's really cool, all going around the board here, and the lands of mists here, and it's sort of the premises, it's sort of parting, and we're finally discovering stuff. Yeah. That's all really cool. But yeah, I do think that some cards, you wound up with some really cool art, and some cards are basically just variations of whatever this is.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, or like whatever is going on with this guy here, I don't know. I mean, that's okay. But then sometimes you get like this thing, which is really cool.
I like that.
Yeah. And these repeat, which I was a bit disappointed by. I would buy it if I didn't have Lords of Hellas, and I was looking for sort of a game like this. I think it's easier. If you're not a super hobby board gamey group, this is more accessible. This is more forgiving.
Yeah. I feel this is a bit more fun.
Yeah, it's a bit more fun, a little less intense, So I think if that's sort of what fits for your group, then this is probably a better shout. This actually, I think, also has more replayability out of the core box. Lords of Hellas only comes with 1 champion per player and 3 monuments out of the core box. And I think 5 monsters or something, but there's a chance they'll all come out in a single game. Having said that, if you're looking for a more intense experience, and Lords of Hellas has got all of these stretch goals which aren't even out yet, and they're going to add an enormous amount of stuff to that game. More monuments, more monsters, more heroes. There's a lot of stuff coming for Lords of Hellas, and Mysthea currently has no known extra content coming. There is obviously room to expand it, but
yes,
they haven't confirmed anything. So I do think that this is probably... I mean, I could easily see you getting this and liking it a lot and then getting Lords of Hellas as an evolution. But I think if someone said to me, what should my first purchase be? I'd say if you don't have anything and you're not this super intense board gaming group,
pick this one.
Pick this one.
If someone brought this to the table, and I would have no qualms in playing this whatsoever. I would happily replay this again and again. It's something I would still enjoy.
All right, so I think we out. We'll be back tomorrow for an entirely different adventure. Thanks so much for coming on this Mysthea journey.
I need a kip.
Yeah, it's been a long one, but it's been a good one, and we had a lot of fun. So there you go. I hope that's given you some insight into Mysthea.
Yeah.
The battle...
Mysterious land of the crystals.
For the Misty Islands. Battle for the Quome. Yeah. It's called Quome.
And if there's just a little tag on, if there's anything that's coming out recently that you'd like us to play, leave a comment.
Yeah, we do our best. We do our best. But if you express interest, that sort of helps us to figure out what you guys want to see.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.